every single one of them, except the last meeting. There was one gone, and it was John.
I was at a funeral in Sioux Falls.
And they said they got more done that week than ever. No.
Well, if I could kind of hit on a few of these points, and I'll be brief. One is, these two departments should have never been combined. I've been running two departments with a budget of one this entire time, and to try to create a whole new department, add salaries, add benefits, add a motor vehicle, add motor vehicle expenses, and take it out of the existing emergency services budget will only do one thing. It will leave you short in the emergency services budget for us to be able to meet the needs that we're currently meeting 24/7. Secondly, I do believe, and I have met with my staff, and I've got 33 years of experience of running that department, and we've been talking to the rural fire chiefs. We will not be able to carry, nor do I believe a Suburban is the safest vehicle to use based on the roadways we travel on, especially with the shoulder drop-offs and that kind of thing. You overload a Suburban and then you start dropping off the shoulder, you'll have an upside-down Suburban. The vehicles that we're going to are the one we have ordered, which will be in any day, is a 3500 series Chevrolet.
How did you order one?
It was ordered out of last year's CIP budget.
Without coming to the board?
Absolutely not. No, it was
So
bid
it was
out.
approved last year.
There was an ad put in the newspaper. We took competitive bids countywide.
You spent some of the 70,000 for this year already?
I spent money that was budgeted in the capital improvements budget for the county.
Well, that wasn't in the mayor's understanding, and that's
Yeah.
part of it. You operated so long without supervision, that's how that stuff happened.
And, you know, I'm gonna be professional here, so I've taken enough personal shots, and I'm not gonna be anything but professional. So, the issue of getting a fleet that is leaner and more economical is what we're on. That's the quest we're on. That's why we're asking for a second vehicle next year. He addressed 208. Yes, 208 is a 25-year-old truck. It's got about 30,000 miles on it. Has a very sophisticated piece of equipment in the back of it that we only allow one person to maintain. And we only allow a handful of people to operate it. It's a breathing air compressor. If you don't know what you're doing with that breathing air compressor, you have the possibility of killing people because you give them either bad air or you kill yourself the way you fill the bottles. So there is one technician that works on that. It's a DOT certified compressor. It's available countywide. Once we put that air in those firemen's tanks, if it's bad, they're gonna go on a house fire and die. It's tested regularly, and it's a very sophisticated piece of equipment. It rides in the back of that truck. That diesel generator sits outside of the compartment where the compressor is at, so we don't get diesel fuel smell or diesel fuel fumes into the tanks while we're filling them with the compressor running. The second person issue is different depending on where you go in the county, and we recognize that. At 3 o'clock in the morning in Anthony, Iowa, or Danbury, or Odo, or Smithland, if you take a call, that's when 8 to 5 starts in Danbury, Iowa. Because by the time they take the call, go to Sioux City, drop the patient off, come back to the station, put the ambulance away, and get to Sioux City, they're late for work. The farther west you come across the county, because the majority of our people work in Sioux City, the day changes. It's not 3 to 7, it's maybe 6, they can take a call, get to the station, return the ambulance, and get back home. One of the things that we would like to do, once my duties in emergency management are no longer weighting my schedule down, we have already talked to Jeff Schouts, gotten a price from him. We've already reached out to the Iowa Department of Public Health, the Bureau of EMS. We're asking for funding to have Jeff come in, spend an entire day with not just the guys that have been doing it a long time, but the younger people. What we need is a strategic plan countywide, and we need it to bring in all the players, the township trustees, the city councils, the boards of supervisors, the state agencies. We've had very good success this legislative season. Senator Jeff Danielson is working through a series. He's been here, done a public forum with us. He's working through a series of questions and potential legislative initiatives that could be done to increase maybe some EMS funding coming into the county. The budget that I've proposed to the board for the emergency medical services budget gets us where we can handle the calls, we can handle the call volume, we can continue to replace this aging fleet. The 208 truck, I am not in favor of putting that compressor in a trailer. It's a lot of heavy stuff to be pulling behind a truck. It's very heavy, and it's putting the generator inside the trailer is a bad plan because you have to then vent the entire generator, oil smell, and you'd have to actually partition that generator off from the inside of the rest of the trailer. So
I'm sensing a difference of opinion.
well, and the other thing I will just quantify is I heard this plan for the first time at one of the commission meetings. I have at no time sit down with John and gone through this plan. So I am the emergency services director, been doing it for 33 years, asking the board to give me a budget, give me an opportunity to work with the squads in the county, bring some strategic planning to the table. You tasked me last year, the board last year tasked me to sit down with Chief Everett from the Sioux City Fire Department and Brian Jacobson from Siouxland Paramedics, the new Siouxland Paramedics director, to look at ways that we can bring together our resources and get some synergy and maybe reduce what's going to be later on your agenda of a subsidy line item for Siouxland Paramedics. Those meetings are in play now. But reducing, going in and taking $5,500 out of my fuel line item, I'm going to come up short in fuel.
I'm having just a little trouble with that. I think you're missing the point what the mayors are saying. They're talking to us. And you're saying their opinion doesn't count.
No, I'm not saying their opinion doesn't count. I'm saying I think we need to bring everybody together in one room and there's a lot of moving pieces and parts to this that I think shouldn't just fall on the county to fund. It's real easy to say, here, county, fund this, but I think everybody should have their foot in the game.
I'd like to, because if we take this bit by bit, we'll get through this. The $70,000 for motor vehicle and the $20,000 for buildings, it's in the CIP, the other one being paid out of gaming. This difference of opinion on how that should be spent, I would move that the board would, in an advisory role only, take on Mr. Winkle bring him in and work with Gary Brown and come up with something for how this $90,000 could be spent. And it would, of course, come back to the board before any decision would be made on purchasing anything, but not including vehicles or defibrillators.
Could I make a
Need a second.
Second.
All right. This would have to come back next week. Right, Dennis?
Can I hear what Gary was going to say? What were you going to say?
Here's my thought. We have the $20,000 is the building. It's to try to winterize the building. The $70,000 is the vehicle. It's not going to get spent for a year. Allow me to bring together all of the players across Woodbury County in a strategic planning session that looks at what the needs are across the board, not just for my department, because the services that we provide, one department can be entirely different than the needs of another department out in the county. The cookie cutter approach is so far not what we need out there. And I want to get everybody's input, mayors, supervisors, EMS, fire.
I just heard you say we asked you to do that a year ago.
We are in play right now.
Well, the mayors haven't heard that, so
And that new vehicle's confusing me. I didn't know that was out there.
The first task that you asked me to do was to get together with Tom Everett and Siouxland Paramedics and look at that subsidy. We are working on that now.
And you created more problems there because I've heard from the fire chiefs, including Anthony Gall and Sergeant Bluff, who was invited to a meeting with Tom Everett, and he didn't know, he's the largest fire chief in the county, and he had no knowledge from you that you were talking joint training with Sioux City Fire. And he was very upset about that, and as I went around the county, that's the kind of thing, some of that's going backwards, I'm telling you, it's not going forward, but that's not the budget issue, but that's what we heard from Sergeant Bluff, so, anyway. I just don't.
So there's a motion on the table right now. Is that correct, Mr.
To clarify, we were talking about a budget item, so what was your motion?
Motion to appoint Mr. Winkle as an advisor to the board, that all decisions on
Do this budget?
No, that all decisions on spending the money represented by the 70,000 and the 20,000 be brought back to the board first.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yes, sir.
I don't understand. We have two different departments. You've got emergency management. It's run by a commission. You've got emergency services. That is run by the county board. Now you're talking about it's been separated out, and now you're putting it back together again?
No.
No.
What are we doing?
No, that's not.
Part
We're
of the
saying-
problem is what Mr. Winkle gave to us today is all new information. I haven't been a part of any of this. It's hard to just get
Yeah, I don't
your head
understand.
wrapped around it if you haven't been going to the meetings, if you're not a part of the system out there. So the backup wasn't there. We're being asked to make a decision now based on, late in the day. No food, I'm sorry, I'm hung up on food, I guess, but it's just difficult to move on anything when we haven't had proper backup and
I
time to think
understand,
about it.
but basically what the motion is doing is manifesting what Mr. Brown wants, which is to bring everyone together before we make a decision on these. There's obviously a fundamental disagreement of whether we're going to buy defibrillators or a new truck. So I think if that directly influences a line item that we're considering cutting today, we should probably at least put that under our control as opposed to just whatever happens, happens.
It is under our control, isn't it? See, that's,
Emergency services under our control.
right.
We have a motion on the floor to appoint Mr. Winkle as an advisor to Gary Brown, and they will work during the next week and bring back some resolution.
To what?
Right, yeah, to what?
The truck? Is that the motion?
I think the whole,
To the expense paid out of gaming and CIP. Because, we're also talking about improvements to the building. I've heard the building, very old, multi-level, we pay way too much to heat it. And as we're gonna be looking in the county on ways to have greater efficiency with heating costs, I mean, that is a whole lot of money that we probably don't need to budget for if we're gonna make some decisions based on where that's gonna go. If we're gonna convert part of that to, I know the mayors have also talked about converting part of that to cold storage as opposed to heating it all the time. I mean, these are money savers.
Part of it is cold storage.
Okay.
all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Hey, I don't understand what we're doing here.
No, and it's nothing personal, it's just that I don't, I'm not comfortable with a
We have
motion.
two proposals. Mr. Winkle and Mr. Brown are going to come back with one.
On the vehicle.
On the 70,000 and the 20, the expense paid through gaming and CIP.
Right.
I'd also like to point out these cuts I'm proposing for the services side aren't dollar for dollar. There's still new qualified new spending on the commission side that we're not offsetting. So in conversation with Mr. Brown, we came to a solution in order to not increase tax askings together, which would be to use some of the remaining, if we were to adopt the 41,000 and the 11.5 going to the commission, we would still have 73,500 left over of gravy money, leftover fund money that's rollover money, and that we can use to offset some of these before we get a handle next year on what is really duplicated, what is really necessary expenses, because we're all learning here.
All right, I would take a motion to table emergency services
I do
till
have
next week.
I do have proposed cuts, Mr. Chairman, if you would entertain a motion to adopt.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, next one up.
What was the vote, please?
Aye.
4 aye, 1 nay.
Chairman, we have another meeting at 3:30. I think everybody's hungry and tired.
I would move that we adjourn, get something to eat, and that we also come back after the conference board.
Okay? We're not adjourned, we're
Recess.
recessing.
I amend my motion to say that we will recess. If I can get a second, I'd appreciate it.
Second.
Just declare a recess. We are recessed.
Say what?
They're coming back after their conference board meeting. When is that effective? 3:30?
Not right now. I'll be back, though. Appreciate it.
Conference board meeting.
Sorry, another time I might. But
That's my understanding, that's all changed.
Okay, we're over in the corner, set up, ready to go.
It's Mr. Exner has a budget meeting for the Sioux City Conference Board. It shouldn't take very long.
And then right after that,
Will they be meeting, budget meeting again after that conference meeting? And about what time would you guess that would be? I got an appointment with an attorney. They just came up. What's that? Yes, evidently. And so I had one with a